Welcome back to part 3 of an ongoing video series to see if repairing a high mileage truck in the Rust Belt is worth it. Since the last video, I did get sidetracked working with some vehicles that weren't the truck, but they're all sorted out now and we can get back to working on the truck. The things we're doing today aren't revolutionary or super exciting, but they are being done and I figured I would document them for the sake of the video and honesty and keeping with prices and all that. I do have some exciting things coming up, but they're not done yet. Some have been done. If you look closely in the videos, you might see a little sneak peek here or there of what's going on, but I won't be revealing all of that yet, but it will be coming in the future. Anyways, enough of me yapping, let's get out to the garage. In the first video, I took the spark plugs out so I could put an inspection camera down the hole to get a look at the cylinders, and they ended up looking alright. I didn't see any signs of a coolant leak. So I decided to just replace the spark plugs. Here's a picture of the old ones. They weren't too terrible, but I went this far, might as well replace them. You should always gap your plugs, even if they're brand new. You don't know how many people dropped or kicked these things around before they got to you. In addition to that, I'll also put a little bit of anti-seize on the threads, just a tiny bit. Make sure you don't get it on the electrodes, just because steel and aluminum don't mix well together. And if we're doing plugs, we're obviously going to do the wires. So I put a little bit of dielectric grease on each end of the wire, helps some electrons flow smoothly. Take the old steel boots off and put them on the new wires, and you're good to go. In my first video, I made a big old list of things that I would like to get done, and the more I look at this truck, the longer that list gets. My valve covers were also leaking, so here's a time lapse of me removing the valve cover. Figured I'd do those gaskets while I already got the plugs and wires out. I'm still new to making YouTube videos, so you have a great shot of my right shoulder and back, just hogging the whole scene. I thought it would be easy making videos. I got the tripod, I got a mic, I'm like, no problem. And then the tripod's too tall when you need it to be short, too short when you need it to be tall. You can never get the angles right, so this is the best to get. But these are works in progress, so hopefully as time goes on, you'll see me get better at it. Look at how dirty that thing was. Just scrubbing all of it off. Get her nice and clean. I'm not going to paint them or anything. I'm just cleaning them up. At the end of the day, it's a work truck. And here's where I think where most of the oil was coming from, was these boots were pretty far gone. I don't think it was so much the gasket. Here's a shot of the upper valve train. It's not the best, not the worst. Considering the mileage, I think it looks just fine. I have seen some sludged up engines with much less miles, so I'm happy with it. Since I had everything out, I also did the air cleaner. Probably the absolute most basic thing I've done. And here's a time lapse of it and you get to watch it. Isn't this riveting footage? Now, even though I've managed to amass a huge amount of followers, I still haven't been hit with that sponsorship deal. But I will tell you guys that I do use a lot of Rock Auto. Mostly just because I get their magnets in every order. And who doesn't love magnets? So around here, we use genuine Rock Auto parts. Give me a sponsorship. Did you guys hear something? Anyways, when I'm looking for parts, I will search for Rock Auto, Amazon, and then I hit up 2 local parts stores around me, or just go on their website. Rock Auto does have really good prices, but it comes down to shipping a lot of the times. So if you're trying to pinch pennies and you got the time, why not hit up 5 websites at once and price match? It's the beauty of the internet. Another item that wasn't on the initial list, I had some lights out that I was unaware of. And man, do I miss these old headlight styles. Just one pin pulls it out and you get that everything all at once. I didn't even have to do a time lapse for this. I was able to do it in one shot. Nowadays on some of these vehicles, you got to pull either the whole bumper, the whole wheel well, you got to pull batteries out, air boxes out. It's just a pain. This is also where I start getting into conflict about what I should repair that is essential versus cosmetic, because these headlights are obviously foggy. There's condensation built up on the inside that you can see, and I really think it would look good with some new headlights, but is it worth the money for a winter beater? So I was thinking maybe I start a second list of non-essentials and then split the prices up for essential and non-essential. And after I get done, I forgot one of the bulbs. This one was also burnt out. Got that replaced. She's good to go. Moving back to another issue brought up in the first video was this coolant leak off of this T-fitting they put in there for whatever reason. So here I'm taking it out. Now I checked this ahead of time and it said it was a 5/8 T-fitting. So I bought a 5/8 straight fitting. And when I got it apart, I found it was a little too loose inside the hose. You can see it's a little bit differently shaped there, and it just wasn't a tight seal. So what I had to do was go back. The next size up they had was a 3/4 straight fitting, so I absolutely mashed that thing inside of these hoses. It's not meant to be in there, it's not the right size, but it fit and it does work for now. I will of course keep you updated to if this was the only coolant leak on the vehicle, if it does or does not need a head gasket in the future. Something else not on the original list, I found this rear defroster tab broke off. I was trying to figure out ways that I could fix this. I thought I could solder it, but got scared because of the ramifications of heat on glass. So what I did is I found these products on the internet, and this is the wrong one. This is for repairing lines in the defroster, which I didn't need, so out with that one. And this is what I needed. It's almost like a rear view mirror adhesive with conductive bits inside the glue so it'll transfer electricity. Let's go through the instructions together. Step 1, remove tab from wire. Check. Step 2, apply applicator and let sit for 5 minutes. I'm pretty sure this is just an alcohol prep pad, but they call it an applicator. Step 3, knead the package of glue until it is a beige consistency. Check. Step whatever we're on, apply 1 drop to each side and apply it, and then hold it for 1 minute. Yeah, that's right, you get a time lapse of me holding it there. Then after 24 hours, reapply your wire. Whoa, aggressive jump cut. We are on the rack, we're in the air, we're taking the filter off, we're draining all the fluids, baby. Slap that new filter up on there, take this skid plate off so I can get to the front diff, drain that front diff, and the fluid wasn't that bad. Watch me try and show you what's on the end of the drain plug, but end up just shining the flashlight directly into the camera. What a great shot. Oh, completely missed the oil drain. Rookie move. What is this, my first oil change? I completely soaked my leg. The transfer case fluid came out nice and red, no debris in there. One problem, it should not be red. It should have AutoTrack 2 in it, which is a blue color, so I will be sure to refill it with the AutoTrack. Here we got a nice pour into this bottle with no funnel needed, not a drop spilt, unlike our oil change. You can also see how that fluid's nice and blue. The rear diff does not have a drain, so you have to remove the cover to drain it. The bolts are pretty crusty, so I started off by hammering a socket over the bolts just to knock some of the crust off, then lightly hitting it with an impact. Don't go full bore, you will snap them off or strip them out. Luckily all of them came out. And once again, for the last of the major fluids, none of them looked that bad. The engine oil was the worst of it, I think. So the previous owner did some sort of upkeep with the fluids at least. Taking a look inside the rear diff here, you can see there's definitely wear. It's got 292,000 miles. That rust flake is from the diff cover. It's not chunks that are floating around in there. I washed them all off before I refilled it. But she looks okay. Nothing major. To finish it off, I did replace the bolts. I didn't put those crusty boys back in, so there's a shot of that. So just like the hitch in the last video where I didn't get any footage, I also did the belts and tensioners that I mentioned in the first video. I could not get the camera down in between the radiator and the engine to get a good shot of that. It just wasn't worth it, so I'm going to add that to the price list and just know it's done. That's all the work we're going to do for this video. Now we can add up the total cost of the parts and add it to our total. So we have spark plugs and wires at $59, valve cover gaskets at $16, air filter at $17, bulbs were $8, coolant fitting $9, defroster glue $17, the oil change cost $27, AutoTrack fluid was $14, gear lube was $23, belts were $44, tensioners were $55. Now with the last video's total of $1,286, adding our new total is $1,575. Thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. Now, just as a little bit of a rant, if you do order stuff from Rock Auto and you do find that shipping is a factor, like I mentioned earlier, if you're ordering parts in bulk, you have a lot of parts. If you look at the shipping, a lot of times it'll be coming from different warehouses, warehouse A, B, and C, they'll usually label them. If you look and say you get an economy part for $10, but then shipping is $13, but you have a bunch of other parts coming from different warehouses, if you can find even a more expensive part from the same warehouse as another part you're ordering, it'll cancel the shipping. So instead of paying $23 for $10 and then $13 for shipping, if you can find a $15 part, so it's $5 more than the cost of the part, but it's also shipping from the same warehouse, it then cancels out the shipping for that. So you're getting a more expensive part for cheaper, if that makes sense. It is very time consuming and it's a lot of clicking. And if you're only ordering like 1 or 2 parts, it's not really an option. But for stuff like this, where I'm ordering a bunch of stuff all at once, it was very helpful. So just a little tip there for anybody trying to order off Rock Auto. Once again, not sponsored, but sponsor me.